Hi readers, thanks for joining back in to another reading lesson. Today we're going to finish Keepers that we started yesterday or last day. Today I want you to think what some important things are that you should be paying attention to when we read. Okay, so the last page was he headed out to see what he could find for little Dolly's 90th birthday. Kenyon went into the bakery first. "Hey, Miss Montgomery." The woman behind the counter reached into the glass display case and pulled an oatmeal cookie from the pile. "Oatmeal is good for you in the morning," she said with a wink as she handed the still warm cookie to Kenyon. "What can I do for you?" "I'm trying to figure out what to get little Dolly for her birthday." Kenyon forced his words around the cookie. "One of the things I was considering was your strawberry shortcakes. Little Dolly says no one can come close to touching your cake. Would you make one?" Miss Montgomery smiled gently. "If that's what you want, but they're $15. "Oh, I got that and more," he said, "but I'm just looking today." Kenyon wandered along Main Street, going in and out of shops, talking of ideas for little Dolly with all of the shopkeepers, for they all knew his grandmother. The antique store where she could tell stories about many of the items for sale, the carriage ride place where little Dolly always delighted the tourists with her tales, the soldiers' cemetery where she and Kenyon helped the caretaker decorate with flags on holidays. Let's pause for just a second and think to ourselves and tell somebody that's nearby, what is happening in this story so far? What is happening in the story so far? You can pause me if you need a little bit more time. Kenyon was sliding his fingers along the storefronts when he saw right under his hand a leather baseball glove. On sale. Real leather. He went in. He tried it on. It fit as if it had been made just for him. He pinched it with his fist, and the rich aroma of new leather filled his head. He thought about Mo Davis, and within 5 minutes, that brand spanking new leather glove slid into a crisp shopping bag. Kenyon ran to the field and tried it out. Mo wasn't around, but there were plenty of kids to ooh and ah over his purchase. He fielded grounders with it, spit into it, and scratched his name on it with a penknife. And then when he headed home for lunch, streaked with dust and full of pride, then he remembered little Dolly. Kenyon felt as if he couldn't breathe right. His eyes opened wide, and he could feel his heart beating against his ribs the way a bat beats a ball when it connects for a homer. "What'll I do? What'll I do?" All the way home, folks asked him if he'd decided yet on the gift for little Dolly. He managed to mumble something. Miss Montgomery looked at the ball glove, and she knew, and he knew she'd figured it out. Okay, so let's pause and let's discuss with somebody nearby, or you can even just say it out loud. What has happened? And how does Kenyon feel at this point in the story? How does he feel? I can tell that he's feeling a little bit of regret when what'll I do? What'll I do? He realizes, man, I just spent all that money that I had saved for her on myself. What'll I do? What'll I do? When he got asked to a pickup game later, Kenyon said no and went to his room. His dad came in, feeling all over Kenyon's head and making him stick out his tongue. "I'm not sick," he told his dad. "You've never said no to a baseball game, son. Never." Kenyon slumped onto his bed. "I'm not sick, I'm just stupid." "Why in the world would you say that? Dad, have you ever done something you were sorry for, but you couldn't change it?" Kenyon looked straight into his father's eyes. His dad let a breath out slow. "Well, sure, everybody has, I expect." "So what did you do?" "I told myself that I would do better the next time, and then I went on. You can't go back. You can only go forward." What do you think Kenyon's dad means when he says, "You can't go back, you can only go forward"? Can't change the past, I guess. Can only go forward and try to make it right. So what do you think is important to understand and remember in this part that we just heard? I would think probably something about, you can only go forward, so try to make it right. What do you think is going to happen next? Let's find out. Little Dolly wouldn't be 90 again. He couldn't do better. There wouldn't be a next time. Shoot, he didn't blame little Dolly for not trusting him with her stories. He couldn't even be trusted with money and the stories. That was it. He could give her something. On little Dolly's birthday, Kenyon and his dad helped her out to the porch. There were 2 presents waiting on the swing. "Oh my," little Dolly gushed. She picked up the smaller present, laughing. "I know what this is," she said. "Every year Dad got little Dolly a box of assorted chocolates. They were her favorite, and she always hid them so she wouldn't have to share. I'll save these for later." She tucked the box behind her arm and reached for the other gift. As she picked it up, car horns sounded. "Lord Almighty," little Dolly said. "What's happening?" "Happy birthday, Miss Bowles!" Shouts came from the street, and suddenly the porch spilled over with people from town. All of the friends little Dolly had made in all of her years of living in Lexington. Miss Montgomery strolled up the walk with the biggest strawberry shortcake ever. "Happy birthday," she said, setting the cake before little Dolly. "Make a wish and blow out all of these candles. It isn't every day that you turn 90, you know." She reached over and hugged Kenyon. The cake was delicious, and everyone had a good time. All right, so now let's think, oh boy, what just happened? And why do you think all of these townspeople came to little Dolly's party? "Don't that beat all," little Dolly said after everyone had left. "Best birthday I've—" Little Dolly stopped as her foot pushed on Kenyon's present. "Well, looks like it ain't over yet," she said. "Hand that box to me, Kenyon." Little Dolly ripped the paper off as Kenyon shifted from foot to foot. He started apologizing. "It's not much, I know, not like a carriage ride or a strawberry shortcake." He stopped when he saw that her eyes were sparkling. She carefully lifted the gift from the box and delicately touched the handmade book. "They showed us how to do that in school," Kenyon explained, "how to bind it and all. And inside I put my stories." She finished. "A book of my stories." "Yes, ma'am." Little Dolly pulled Kenyon next to her. Tears were spilling over and dancing down her cheeks. "Well, it seems that I was wrong, Kenyon," she said. "A keeper don't have to be a girl. You've done a fine job here, child. Now, I'm going to need to teach you a few things all keepers got to know. And then, well, you'll need to add some of your own stories, maybe a few baseball stories, eh?" Kenyon smiled and slipped his hand into little Dolly's. It was definitely a wallop bat day. Okay, so let's discuss. Kenyon, he had that problem. He'd spent all of his money. He didn't think that he was going to be able to get a birthday present for little Dolly's 90th birthday. He even said, that only happens one time. He can't, do better next time. He had to make it better that time. So the stories, he completely proved his grandma wrong. It didn't have to be a girl. He could do it just as well as a girl could, maybe better, who knows, but he should be given the chance, which she definitely saw, which is really important. Now Kenyon, he changes from the beginning of the story to the end of the story, just like a lot of characters in our books change. So think about that as you are reading your book today. But before you get straight into your book, I want us to do a journal entry. So pull out your Making Meaning book, flip to the back. We're not all on the same page because everybody writes a different amount, but find your first blank page for your reading journal. And I want you to share a story from your life. Think about a story about your family that you can share and write it down. And then pick a great nonfiction book and find a comfortable spot to read and enjoy that book for at least 25 minutes, but more is always better. Happy reading.